Hello, friends, and welcome to Weekly Witness, Texas Impact's weekly podcast designed to help mainstream Texans of faith understand the legislative process and help you engage with the Texas legislature. My name is Scott Atnip, your host and Texas Impact's Director of Public Witness, and today we're excited to welcome Texas Impact's Executive Director, B. Moorhead, to the program. Y'all, there's a lot going on in the world, including the Texas legislature coming back to town to debate diverting public dollars to private school vouchers. We'll talk with B about the lay of the land in Texas and the role Texans of faith can play in this special session and in this heightened political climate. I'll say it up front and I'll say it again in the conversation. There's going to be a lot of talk in the next few weeks about what, quote, religious people want. And a lot of those voices will be claiming that Texans of faith support vouchers. Our membership says otherwise, and so it's important that we speak up. Texas Impact has a tool for you to do just that. I hope you'll go to texasimpact.org, sign the sign-on letter that will be hand-delivered to the Capitol, and then share it with your networks. But make sure you get it back to us in a hurry so that we can deliver it to the Capitol for you in a timely manner. I'll also talk with B about another major October event, Texas Impact's membership drive, and how your support helps Texas Impact work for a more just and equitable Texas. There's a lot coming up, and we appreciate your partnership in this work. As always, feel free to reach out at scott@texasimpact.org. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this week's program. Joining us for today's conversation is Texas Impact's Executive Director, B. Moorhead. B, it is so good to see you. I'm glad you're on the program today.
I'm excited to be here. I haven't been on for a minute.
Yeah, you haven't been on for a minute, and it seems like there's been a lot going on since the last time you were here in Austin. So always good to have the executive director come give us a lay of the land about what's happening in this great state and at the Capitol. And as our listeners probably know by now, the legislature is back in Austin. Fun times are here again. Not so much. You're rolling your eyes. All right, we'll keep going. There is a lot going on in Austin, and the legislature is in. We're going to have a conversation about vouchers today. But talk to us about the general state of things. It seems tense. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's absolutely fair. Things are tense in so many different directions. People can't find any relief. You know, everything they think is going to be, well, I'll focus on this. For a lot of people, turn on the TV on Saturday morning thinking they were going to escape Texas politics, and instead they found out Israel was at war. So,
right. I like to think that people of faith are more optimistic and hope-filled maybe than the general population as well. But I know this is hard for our listeners too. But one of the questions I think we should talk about, or one of the answers I hope you'll give us, is what role should Texans of faith play in this tense political climate in Austin and beyond?
You know, I have been thinking about that, and I especially, I suppose, have been thinking about it because I've been participating in teaching a Sunday school class at my church for the past 5 weeks. Nice. So it's been great. It was a class on climate change. A topic that, you know, is particularly interesting to me. But the class in the last class period, so Sunday, was having kind of more open-ended discussion about what to do next. So they'd had this conversation about climate change, heard from all kinds of different people on video, and now wondered what they should do. And as they started to talk about all the different things, you know, I could see people kind of spinning up and, you know, well, what if we did this? And what if we did this? And the thing I'm the most worried about, and of course, like within minutes, it was climate change. And also I'm concerned about vouchers, and also I'm concerned about healthcare. And I think the thing that brought the class back to you know, kind of a point of a focus, and a thing that I think I would suggest to other faith communities as well, was when we started to talk about what we would be able to do in partnership with local government. So, people talked about changing light bulbs and they talked about doing solar and things like that. But then eventually people started to say, well, maybe what we should do is talk to our local, so, here in Austin, be Austin Energy, but we should talk to the mayor's office and city council and local leaders about their vision for our community. I think that's just as true on education and healthcare and voting and every other issue that people of faith care about as it is climate, that we would never go wrong starting by saying, I wonder what other people in my community envision for us collectively. That is not the same thing as saying, I wonder what little charitable thing we could do without talking to anybody else. And we a lot of times do that. And that's definitely easier. It's easiest just to say, never mind, it's too hard to talk to other people. I'll just do it myself, right? I'm going to do a little thing I can think of myself. Better and harder, but so much better, is to say, what does everybody else imagine that we should all be doing together here in this space we're occupying together? Texas is such a big place. It is immediately overwhelming to think about. And then, if you have people who in the same breath are saying, and what are we going to do about Israel? Well, I got to tell you, I, like a lot of people, was looking at a map on Saturday, noticing where Texas is compared to Israel and thinking, we are so isolated from so much of the rest of the world. We here in North America, we have kind of a privilege or, limitation in that we're long and skinny with the Americas, but then the whole rest of the world, you got to go across water to get to. Think about your local community and talking to other people, especially local elected officials, local leaders, about your own community, because that's ultimately where your base of operations is.
I love that you talked about local action. We've been talking about that a lot over the course of the last few weeks, and especially on this topic that we're going to talk about today relating to education. Josh was on a couple of weeks ago talking about chaplains and the importance of engaging with local school boards, and I assume we're going to be talking a lot more about those kinds of projects over the course of the next few years. But when we meet with the education folks, we talk about local action and state action. And so I do want to talk about the voucher bill or bills that we're going to be expecting. Again, we're recording this early after the legislature convened. And so by the time it runs, there might be more news. But we're expecting some voucher bills. And Texas Impact has historic positions on those. So talk to us about school vouchers and why public education is such an important priority for Texas faith communities.
Well, Texas Impact does have historic position opposing vouchers. That's because the faith traditions that are members of Texas Impact have historic positions opposing vouchers. And the reason they do is, interestingly, bound up in the fact that faith communities were instrumental in establishing public education in the modern world. The United Methodists, or the Wesleyans, the pre-United Methodists, were among the first people to really push for school for all children. And the reason that they started with Sunday school was because children at that time worked. And so Sunday was the only day that they could go to school. So when we think about the progress that we made since those days, that is a lot because the faith communities were so engaged in pushing for universal public education. Some faith communities, I'm going to go out on a limb, Scott, and say most faith communities have arms that do education for their own children. The Presbyterian Church has, my denomination has boarding school and day schools in Texas. The United Methodist Church has boarding schools and day schools in Texas. It isn't one denomination or one tradition that has a lock on having its own schools that sometimes people want to send their kids to. What's distinctive is that for most of those faith traditions, what they would say is when we decide to send our children to those schools, we do it because we expect certain things and we don't expect anybody else to pay for it. When we expect that we have a system that all taxpayers support that is there for everybody. And if people don't want that one, then they certainly can pay to go get an alternative. So faith communities don't oppose vouchers because they oppose religious education. They oppose vouchers kind of because they support religious education, but they don't supporting somebody else's religious education any more than they would ask somebody else to support theirs.
Right. I think this conversation about faith communities and vouchers is interesting and will get more interesting over the course of the next few weeks because there are a lot of different perspectives on this voucher conversation in the Capitol. A lot of people speaking from a faith background, taking one position or the other. And I know that we think it's important that mainstream Texans of faith who support public education speak out and speak about it from a faith perspective. And Texas Impact has an opportunity for people to do just that. We have a tool for you. So talk some about what you hope people will do over the course of the next few weeks.
What we really hope people will do, let me be frank. I think there is a moment coming, as is the case with any big contentious issue at the Capitol, where we're going to be saying we hope people will come to the Capitol in person to attend a meeting with their legislator or to attend a meeting with a bunch of other people or something. But right now, it is really important for people essentially to go on record with their legislator. So it is a real thing that legislators keep records of sort of number support, number oppose of their constituents. They want to have their finger on the pulse of where their district is on an issue that they know they're going to have to vote on. We have a letter on our website. You can get there from the homepage or lots of different links, I think, throughout the website.
We'll try to link that in the show notes. How about that, Davey? There
you go. We have a letter that I think we've kind of cracked. I'm pretty proud of it. We've cracked a particularly tough nut about how to balance the fact that we have people all over the state who can't necessarily come in person, and we know that mail takes a long time to get places, and people are always concerned that legislators won't open mail timely anyway, but that we also know that a personal message is important. So what we have is a form on our website that you can fill out that is basically signing a boilerplate letter that says you oppose vouchers, where then it's got a space for you to type in your own additional comments. If you submit that form, we will, and we did this today for the first time with almost 500 of these that have come since Friday. It's been gratifying to see them come rolling in. We print them out and have volunteers hand deliver them to the legislator whose constituent they come from. So today we had folks in the Capitol, especially I'll give a shout out to the Texas UU Justice Ministries. We had some Unitarians and a Quaker there with them, and they were delivering piles of these letters to Senate offices where the senator would know that all of the letters that they received came from people in their district, where they had little comments like, some of them were really poignant, but one of them was, I have 3 children who are in private school, and I want to tell you, I don't want a voucher. I don't want my taxpayer money to go to support somebody else's private school, and I don't need anybody else's tax dollars to support my choice to put my kids in private school. Letters like that. We had people of all faiths, all the faith traditions that participate in Texas Impact, and interestingly, some that do not typically participate in Texas Impact, all signing this letter saying, no vouchers for me, please. And the one thing they all had in common was such love for public schools, so important to them to support Texas public schools, and the concern that vouchers will harm public education in Texas as they have done in other states.
I love everything about that and want to speak a little truth to our friends who are listening today. My hope is that you're all going to click on the link and you're going to go fill out the letter and leave some really great comments. But what I don't want is for a volunteer or a person with a clergy collar to walk into a district office and only have 2 or 3 letters from your district to hand to that staff person at the front or to that representative. We need stacks of letters. And so sign the letter, then share the letter. You can print out copies. You can bring them to your small group or PTA or Sunday school class or dog walking club. I don't care who you bring it to. Have them fill it out and then email it back to us quickly so we can get it in the hands of people. We need stacks of papers to go into each office. So I hope y'all will commit to taking the time to do that over the course of the next few days.
Absolutely, that's true. And I will say I was surprised. I was happily surprised that after whatever that was, not 72 hours, fewer than 72 hours of having posted this letter and asking people to sign it, we had people signing it from all but one Senate district in the state so far. So, nice. Yeah, all over the state, people are concerned.
Excellent. Well, I hope they keep signing, and I'll look forward to bringing a big stack to the Capitol when I'm there soon. Awesome. So we've talked about vouchers. We've talked about the special session. One thing I want to spend just a few minutes talking about today is it seems like when I first got this job, and even long before then, there used to be a time where, believe it or not, friends, there used to be a time where there'd be a 140-day legislative session, and then there'd be a long interim with committee hearings and interim charges and interim reports. And then seemingly forever later, there would be an election season with primaries and elections and all the things. And that was a nice little cycle that we could all rely on. That doesn't seem to be real anymore. It seems like we're having kind of nonstop session year-round, campaigning year-round. What advice do you have for Texans of faith who think that it's kind of a lot? How do we navigate this year-round activity by the Texas legislature, and what role should Texans of faith play in that?
So, you will also remember back in the day, we had a publication
back in the day
where we kind of related the seasons of the legislative cycle to the seasons of the liturgical calendars of our traditions, right? We said there's a way to kind of line these things up together. And what I would suggest is, in the same way that our legislature has moved into this kind of harder to identify the distinct seasons, it's the same way that today we're saying, wait, there's another Amazon sale day? I was in a store over the weekend and they didn't have the thing I needed out because they were in the process of putting up Christmas trees. I'm like, we're not even close.
That's not it.
That's not right? But let me ask you, when you go in a store in the middle of October and they have Christmas trees up, it doesn't make you say, then I'm just not buying milk. I'm just leaving. I'm not going home. I'm going home. I can't handle any of this, right? Nor does it make you say, because the Christmas trees were up in October, I'm just not doing Christmas at all. I'm going to protest Christmas and boycott it. because I don't think they should have put their trees up that soon. No, of course not. You say to yourself, all right, I guess some people have to start thinking about that way far in advance. I'm going to do the activities of the day today, and I'm going to keep in mind that that's right. We've got another one coming, and I'm going to have to be thinking and preparing for that. So when it is the special session at a time when everybody was thinking all we were going to be doing was talking about all the propositions on our ballot next month, incidentally, today, last day to register to vote, right? Or yesterday was the last day to register to early vote.
Probably by the time this podcast comes out, it will be too late. But
it will be too late to register to vote. Yes.
But go ahead and do it for March and November next year. Never too late for the next election.
That's right. Well, and that's sort of exactly my point, right? It's too late to register to vote in that election, but we're going to, just like, there are people, I'm sometimes that person who goes to the store the day after Christmas and buys wrapping paper that's deeply discounted, right? Because I know I'm going to get a good price and I'm not going to have to worry about it for a long time. You register to vote the day after you miss that election and you'll be registered the next time. Don't wait and miss the deadline again. So we're always thinking ahead, but doing what is in front of us, right? We're thinking about where we're going, but that doesn't mean that we're not doing the activity that's right in front of us. So what's in front of us right now is this special session. And what is in front of us right now is a very real concern for Texas Impact, at least, a very real threat of school vouchers in Texas. And that would be a change that I don't think people quite can imagine. Texas is a big place. It has rejected vouchers so many times. It doesn't matter what we call them. It doesn't matter what color they are, what wrapping paper we use for them. Vouchers are vouchers are vouchers. They are a subsidy for private school using taxpayer money. They're not something that our faith traditions support. And right now, that's the task in front of us.
Yeah, and I think if Josh were on today, he would also say what's happening over the course of the next month also informs the next season of the legislative calendar.
Sure, the next season of the legislative calendar, of course, would be the March primaries. And there are legislators who are saying to themselves today, I don't like vouchers. I don't want to support them, but I know that I will have a primary challenger if I don't support them. I understand that I have a few very loud constituents who are going to make this into a big problem for me if I don't just go ahead and vote for them. Well, if they're all of their constituents who are mainstream people of faith, who don't want vouchers, I had one bishop yesterday email me and say, I was in an extremely Republican church recently. They all are absolutely cradle Republicans, and many of them are Trump voters, and none of them supported vouchers. None of them supported vouchers. If those people in that church sit this one out and don't tell their legislator, I will have your back when you take that vote, how are they going to be able to take that vote?
Yeah. And you mentioned it a second ago. I just want to call it out, but talked about the enormous support the Texas House has historically had for public education. The only way that's possible is if it's huge bipartisan support.
Absolutely.
Right? Like this has not been a partisan issue in the House.
No.
Per se. All right. So last week on the program, we talked about vouchers and we talked about the other enormous news for the month of October that everybody should be paying attention to.
Halloween.
And that is Texas, Halloween. My children are so excited for that. Church is doing the pumpkin patch. We're all, Halloween is everywhere here. I'm wearing an orange shirt today. But that is not what I'm talking about. It is the Texas Impact membership drive.
Lord.
And Kat was so energetic in talking about it last week, but I feel like since the executive director's on, we've got to give you a chance to plug membership. Why should people join Texas Impact?
People should join Texas Impact because they care about the issues, because they want smart, effective ways to engage with the legislature. They want to be in community with other people who also want those things, who support the issues they support. Mainly, people of faith should participate in Texas Impact because it belongs to them. So we want people to be members of Texas Impact, but Texas Impact belongs to the people of faith of Texas. The core membership of our organization is institutional faith traditions, denominations that send representatives to our board who set our policies and establish our processes. We're not alone in that structure, right? We have colleague organizations in most states that have a similar structure where the institutions of faith in that state have said, there are so many important issues that we agree on that we need to be able to work together, that we're going to have a convening space where we can all talk about those issues and get right with them. And sometimes there are issues we don't all agree on, and then we don't work on those for a bit, but we don't stop talking about them. Texas Impact is the space where that stuff happens in Texas. So if you join Texas Impact, you're joining an organization that already belongs to you, and that's a special kind of membership.
I've never thought of it that way, but I like that. Texas Impact belongs to you. That's good. Spoiler, I'm probably going to use that at some point. So thank you for that. I feel like we've now done shameless plugs for the day, but any other closing thoughts before we depart today?
People are really struggling to stay engaged right now. That's my perception. It is, it's fall. It's just gotten a little bit cooler. The legislature seems increasingly insulated from public participation. It seems like, this special session is off to kind of a rockin' start. The first two bills getting heard in the Senate, people couldn't find copies of the bills down to even read ahead of time to be able to testify on them. They couldn't find the fiscal note for the voucher bill. The public testimony is getting ruthlessly cut off. It's not feeling like a participatory process. Then you add to that the fact that Congress, what are you going to say about Congress?
We could do another hour on that.
It's feeling a little bit chaotic up there. And then you turn your attention to the wider world, and it just doesn't seem to get any better. And it does make people feel like, I have family coming in for Thanksgiving. I'm just going to focus on making it nice. You don't have to be heroic. You don't have to sublimate all that anxiety or compartmentalize completely to be able to do both, to be able to walk in, chew gum, right? You can say, I am really having a hard time. I'm really not feeling good about the state of the world right now. And I'm not going to try to own some disproportionate agency that if I would just work hard enough and do enough, I by myself will be able to fix it. But you can sure say, in the course of my week, I'm going to spend 15 minutes twice a week. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes, a couple of times a week doing a thing that injects my voice and maintains my voice in the public square. And I'm going to do that in the confidence and, as people of faith, we would say in the hope that all my fellows are doing that too, right? Yeah. That I'm doing my part and everybody else is doing their part too. And when I see people, I'm going to thank them for that. I'm not going to assume either that I'm the only person who's not working night and day to save democracy, or that nobody else I know cares and they're all just watching TV in their pajamas all the time. I have definitely had both of those feelings. I have felt like nobody cares as much as me and everybody's working harder than me. But the reality is, I think I'm probably pretty normal and you're probably pretty normal and all the people we know are pretty normal. And just like in other hard times in our state and our country, we need to be able to be gracious and governing of our own selves.
Yeah. You can't do everything. We wouldn't expect anyone to do everything, but do something.
Do something.
Do something this week. Usually starting with the homework we give you. So this week you're going to fill out the form and send it to all your friends, and then whatever else you can get to after that. All right. B. Moorhead, thank you so much for the time. Thanks for all you do, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Scott.
I hope you enjoyed this week's conversation with B. I certainly appreciate her time and incredible work for a better and more just Texas. And I hope the conversation today inspired you to take the next step. Texas Impact always has tools for you, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if we can support your advocacy work. Y'all, we've been talking about it for weeks. The special session is now here. I hope you're making your calls and having your meetings, and I hope that you're thinking about how you can promote the sign-on letter so your comments can be hand-delivered to your legislator's office in Austin. As always, check out texasimpact.org for all the resources and consider joining one of our teams. Special plug today for the Public School Defenders team. While you're there, I hope you'll listen to B and Kat and consider joining Texas Impact to support this podcast and the work of Texas Impact year-round. So with that, I think it's time to close out this episode. So remember, the world needs Texans of faith active and engaged. So let's get to work.
Weekly Witness is hosted by Scott Atnet, engineered and produced by David Fasalo. Our executive producer is B. Moorhead. The opinions expressed on Weekly Witness are those of Texas Impact and our guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views of our sponsors. Weekly Witness is a product of Texas Impact, people of faith working for justice. Visit us online at texasimpact.org.